Welcome to the Texas Truck Channel, and we've got another goodie for you, an all-new truck to tackle our hill test. I hope we can do that main line. If not, we've got a hybrid line, we'll see. But Brian, we got something pretty special today. They ain't messing around with this. What's all new here?
It's the all-new Chevy Colorado 23 model Trail Boss. I know, this nose may look a little, not that special, but it is. Look at this guy right here. That means you have 6 inches wider track width. That's 3 inches longer control arms on either side. You've got fender flares to match it, and you've also got a 3-inch lift on this thing. So it actually is taller than even the Z71 package. This is pretty cool. So that's why you got this big gap here, and you got the same suspension architecture as the ZR2. You just don't have the Multimatic branded and fancy spool valve shocks. These are simple twin tube shocks. They're just cheap and straightforward, but they get the job done. What you do have are Goodyear Territory ATs. They are really a highway tire, not an off-road tire, but they do have enough siping to handle this kind of loose, silty stuff that we have. It does better on that than a traditional highway tire would. Wrapped around is an 18-inch wheel. They're 265, 65 18s. There's not a whole lot of meat here because of the 18-inch wheel, but there's enough that you could air down a little bit if you wanted to. Now, we don't do that on a hill test, but you can. One more thing is you have felt lining on this fender. That's part of why the road noise is so low. Not that it matters here. So let's bring it down. No side step, but also no rock rail. Bar, you may not need it. We won't need it here most likely because the lowest point is not the cab, it's actually the frame rail right there. So we should be fine going over our breakover point. So I'm not going to worry about the body because we don't have any jagged edges. We have a nice solid ridge. So we might scrape there, that's okay. You do have a transfer case, skid plate, we're going to use that for sure. So out back, this rear end does not have a selectable locker, neither does the front axle, which the ZR2 gives you. But what you do have is a G80 or a lunchbox locker for the off-road guys that know what that means. Basically, it will mechanically lock on its own when you think you need it. One trick I've learned to make it lock before you go up an obstacle is actually power brake it and get the wheel speed to about 10 miles an hour, then let off. When it's decelling, it'll lock the pin, and now it's locked for the rest of your duration until you kind of get on loose pavement and get on lock on its own. So that's what we're going to do today if we want to use that. Out back, you don't have tow hooks, but you do have your 2-inch hitch with good eye bolts here. You can put on wherever you want it, so you're covered there. Under the hood, powering this beast is a 2.7 liter, I know, 2.7 inline 4 turbo. So this is the same motor that you can get on the 1500 Silverado. That means it's big truck duty. Something that's unique here is that the cooling system is completely independent of the engine's drive line on the front end accessories. It's not timing chain driven or belt driven. It's actually an electric pump on its own, which means even at idle, it can spin the cooling system as if you're at 5,000 RPM. That's really good. We've never had a cooling problem on this. We've towed with it. We've pulled heavy stuff in the heat. It's done a really good job at that. As far as powertrain goes, 310 horsepower, 391 torque. That's a big number. The hack for this is go down to the dealer and spend $395, and they will tune this just like the ZR2 because it's the same engine. This actual motor has beefed up internals compared to the LT and WT Craig trims. Those have non-forged internals, and you really can't tune those up higher than what you have. You can here. I'll also say that this thing has no problem with power. I don't know that you even need that tune. So with all that, let's hop into the interior and check out the goodies there.
All right, Brian, moving on to the interior, we do have a lot of goodies. We have off-road pages, we have all kinds of modes. Explain some of those to us.
Yeah, so my favorite gauge is right here. So you do have, you push this button here, you can toggle the gauge configurations. You can have a big one with, you can select coolant temps and different things there if you want to live there. Audio, and then here's the fun one. This is your off-road page for the gauge cluster. It gives you your pitch and roll, which will be showing while we're driving. Keeps your 4 gauge pods on the side. Also your steering angle will show up right here. It tells you what the transfer case is doing. Down here, you can press to select wherever you want the transfer case to be in. You can also spin and toggle to off-road mode, tow haul, or terrain. Now, I'm gonna start this thing in normal, Craig, and 2-wheel drive because, as our viewers know, we go up with the least amount of tools possible and see what it can do.
Show them the air down mode.
Oh, air down mode, I forgot about that. This is pretty cool. Let's go down to the off-road pages. I'm sorry, air down mode. We can pick where we want the PSI to be, hit the start button, and what will happen is as you deflate outside of the truck, it will honk the horn when it's at your desired PSI. So it uses the tire pressure monitors to let you know. So say I wanted it at 16 PSI for off-roading, hit start, go around and start lowering and go bump bump when it hits the right spot. That's pretty cool. I do want to go back to the off-road pages real quick. Let's check that out. And these are kind of goofy. We actually have Baja, which is basically sport mode. Gives you G meters and gives you steering angle and transfer case. Kind of repeats some of the stuff you have over here. Terrain mode, which if you're in terrain mode and in 4 low, you get the pitch and yaw over here, which you don't when you're in normal driving mode. I'm not sure why. And then you have tire pressure, not that meaningful. And then over here you have the overlanding page. Basically it's a big compass and then your elevation. It also tells you the highest and lowest you've been. That's kind of cool. What this stuff is here is just a repeat of that. So this first one is the 700 part, and this is the 36 part. Kind of just not meaningful. I'm not sure why that's there. One thing I do want to point out is that you can hit this camera button on any mode and it pulls up your rear backup camera on the overhead view. You don't have more cameras because this is a Trail Boss, doesn't have the forward facing camera, but if you had a 02, there'd be more options there. So that's the goodies.
All right, Brian, so we're gonna tackle this hill. We're gonna tackle the main line like we do all the vehicles, and we're gonna start off in the least intrusive modes. So we're just gonna be two-wheel drive, normal mode.
Right, I'm not gonna trip the locker to engage. It might engage on its own, but I'm not gonna try and get it to lock on its own.
Well, you can't select it, so that's the way you should do it.
That's how I should do it. So,
okay.
Let's see how it goes.
All right, so here we go. We're gonna head up there to the main line. Got a lot of loose surface, decent tire, plenty, we think plenty of clearance. So let's just try to get to the obstacle and go from there. I'll probably start spinning out about right here, and we'll see if that locker kicks in. Oh, sooner than that. So the locker kicked in. You can hear that turbo. Turbo sounds great. Locker's engaged.
So I'm targeting 2 miles an hour.
Okay, wait. So we are to the obstacle, and we've got a little air dam that's plastic that is barely touching a rock here, but it's just not going to be a problem. That's not going to mess anything up. We should have enough clearance to get up and over, so we're going to continue. Okay, so let's talk this through. So we definitely know we could give some momentum, and we probably could make it.
Nose might be a problem, but also I've got traction instability off. Can we try to give them traction on, see if it makes any difference?
Okay, we'll try that. Also, we need the other modes, we'll go to it. So we're trying to, we're not trying to momentum it, we're trying to slowly get up there and see what happens. Okay, so the next one we're gonna try is for auto.
Yeah, so what that does is it puts it in 4 high. There's a clutch pack on the front drive shaft, so it basically will run it in 2-wheel drive unless front-wheel drive is needed. It'll start to engage that clutch in the front, or disengage that clutch in the front. So let's just see what that does. That'll probably do it. The easiest way would be 4 low, but again, this is the next least severe step in off-road tools. Let's see what that does.
Yeah, so this is basically 4 high without a center diff lock, and let's see what happens here. All right, so Brian, it's what it's got is it's got the juice to do that even in 4 auto. It doesn't really have to have 4 high or 4 low.
You heard the turbo, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this thing sounds like a super out of Fast and Furious. It sounds great because that thing is spooling, and we were actually hanging around right around 3,000 RPM when it started to bite. There's so much torque on demand. 4 low just isn't even needed.
Yeah.
And that honestly, the traction control doesn't matter anyways because that rear locker locks, and it just it's solid. The bones are here. This is a good off-road truck.
Yeah, so there you have it. We do have more modes we could have played with. We had more gearing we could have used to help us.
It's just pointless.
We just didn't really need it. Look, we're at an off-road park earlier. We played around a little bit with this. This thing did quite well there with lots of low traction situations, and we did use some of the modes there. Terrain mode does give you one pedal drive if you really need some finesse and some control.
Yeah, you used that. That worked out good for you, didn't it?
That was actually really good. I kept trying to two pedal it, but then the one pedal drive just worked really good and going up and down some really steep hills.
Yeah.
So with that, thanks for watching. We got more hill tests coming your way. Chevys, Fords, GMCs, all of them. We're gonna take them up here. We don't care if they're crossovers. If the manufacturer says it's a utility vehicle, it's coming up the hill. Don't you worry.
Crossover, SUV, truck, it's coming up here for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, if you like what you've seen, like. If you want to see more, subscribe. We'll see you next time. Yep. Power braking.